Hi there. In 6.4, we're going to take a look at the triangle midsegment theorem. So, what is the triangle midsegment theorem? Well, as we take a look right here, in yellow, it says the segment connecting the midpoints of two sides of a triangle is parallel to the third side and is half as long as that side. So, think about this. We should know that the midsegment, or we'll have to deal with the midpoint of a side. So, if I look right here on our diagram, point D is in the middle of side AB, and point E is in the middle of side BC. And I know that they are, or it's the midpoint because look, it shows that we have two congruent pieces with AD and BD, and we have two congruent segments right here from BE to CE. Not only are these the midpoints, but this line that's going to be drawn right here, or the segment D to E, is going to be parallel to segment AC, or that third side. Now we have this equation right here that tells us that if we do have a triangle if this is the triangle midsegment, this segment DE right there is half the length of AC. And that's what this equation is representing. That the midsegment is equal to 1/2 the third side AC. All right. So now that we have our equation and our theorem right here, we should be able to answer some problems. Go ahead scrolling down to our extra practice. Let's take a look at how we could solve this. Looking at number 1. Now, they tell us that DE is the midsegment of triangle ABC. So let's use our equation. We have our third side right here, which happens to be segment BC. So how about use our equation? DE is equal to 1/2 of BC. So what I can go ahead and do is let's just start plugging in things. X is equal to 1/2 of 28. And half of 28 happens to be 14. And there you go. That is the value for X, which happens to be segment DE, or the midsegment. Please remember, in your homework, make sure that you guys write down the equation and show me what numbers you plug in to simplify and solve things out. All right, let's go to the next one. This time we have DE is the midsegment. It's parallel to BC, which happens to have X. And let's use our equation. Once again, we have DE is equal to 1/2 of BC. So we start plugging things in right here. DE is 15. That's equal to 1/2 of BC. And we got to figure, how do I get BC by itself? The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1, or just 2. So how about we multiply both sides by 2 right here? And that'll cancel out the 1/2. And B to C is equal to 30. Just like that. Take a look next up at number 3. A little bit different. Take a look at where the parts are. We have over here at AE and EC, but not right here at DE and BC. Remember, if DE right here is the midsegment, E is the midpoint. And if E is the midpoint of segment AC, these two segments should be congruent, and CE, or X, is equal to 9. Let's take a look at our next example right here at number 4. The vertices of a triangle are -5, 6, 3, 8, and 1, -4. Uh, so let's go ahead and plot our points. Some of these points, they'll be a little bit off, it looks like. Uh, let's make an adjustment right here. That might make things a little bit better. And so we have -5, +6. There's point A. We have that 3, 8. So that'll be off our grid, but that's okay for this example. And then we have 1, -4. So we've got our triangle ABC. So they want us to figure out what is the mid-segments. Okay. Now, hopefully you remember that our mid-segments right here happen to be at the midpoint. And so what you're going to have to do right here is find the midpoint of the three different sides. Don't forget our midpoint formula. Once again, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So you've got to do this 3 times, and then you'll find the mid-segment of the triangle. And because we have 3 sides, that's why we have to do it 3 times. So if we look at like AB, okay, so let's start with the mid-segment of AB. I've got -5 plus 3 divided by 2, and then 6 plus 8 divided by 2. So we got right here -5 plus 3 is -2/2, which is -1. And then we got ourselves 14/2, which is 7. So at -1, 7 is one midpoint. Next up, let's take a look at how about BC. And then, so we got 3 plus 1/2, and then 3 plus -4/2. So let's simplify this. We got 4/2, which is 2 right there. This is -1/2, so -1/2. I don't know what I did there. Let's see, did we do it all correct? I am tripping, it looks like. I don't know why. Let's go back right here. So we have 3 plus 1, which is good. And then I do not know why, but for our y coordinates, it should have been 8 plus -4/2. And so here we go. So we got, this is 4/2, which is 2. 4 plus 8 is 4. 4/2 is 2. So we have the mid segment right here is at 2, 2. We're close, kind of close right there in our graph. -1, 7 would be up here. And then for the last one, let's go with AC. Sorry. We got -5 plus 1/2. And then we have 6 plus -4/2. So -5 plus 1 is -4. -4/2, -2. And then right here we got ourselves 2/2, which is 1. And so if I look at AC at -2, +1, that's where the point should be. My drawing is a little bit off. So if we were to adjust that line, there you go. So we found our 3 mid segments. All you have to do is use that midpoint formula. Next up, number 5. What is the perimeter of triangle DEF? Okay, so it's pretty much what we've been doing. We got to use the mid-segment formula to find the mid-segment of each side. So let's try to highlight things with colors so we know which sides we're talking about. Let's try to find DE first. And remember, DE, if that is the mid-segment, which it is, if you look at the diagram, it shows you that D is a midpoint and E is a midpoint. This mid-segment is going to be 1/2 of the third side. So for DE, that'll be 1/2 of 45. So that'll end up being 22.5 right there. Let's go ahead and find another midsegment. EF right there is another midsegment parallel to AB. So EF is going to be equal to 1/2 of 13. Half of 13, 6.5. We got a lot of decimals here. And then we also have another side for our triangle, which happens to have D to F. So DF is our midsegment, and that's going to be equal to 1/2 of the third side for that, which would be 38. So 1/2 of 38, and you end up with 19. So if I want to find the perimeter, remember, perimeter is adding up all the sides. So perimeter is going to be 22.5 plus 6.5 plus 19. Put that all together, and you get your answer of 48. And then we'll go ahead and say 48 units. We always want to put some sort of unit of measure, whether it's inches, feet, miles. This time, since there is nothing, we'll go ahead and put units down right there. Let's take a look next up at number 6. This is a very good question right here. You got several things going on all at once to try to get you thinking. It says in the diagram, segment DE is the midsegment of triangle ABC. So we know right here that this DE is the midsegment of the entire triangle, and FG is the midsegment of triangle ADE. So let's find FG. Well, since I know that DE is the midsegment of the entire triangle, then this obviously right here, hopefully we realize is the third side. So we have to find DE first before we could figure out the midsegment right here for F to G, which is the midsegment of triangle, the smaller one, ADE. So let's start off. I could find DE, and that's equal to 1/2 the third side, which is 52. So DE right here is now equal to 26. So we'll go ahead and put 26 right there. And now remember, DE is the third side of this smaller triangle that FG happens to be the midsegment of. So now I can go ahead and put FG is equal to 1/2 of that third side. And so F to G ends up equaling 13. And there you go. It's a two-part problem doing the same things 2 times. All right, let's go ahead and move on down next to number 7. All right, so this time they're giving us the area of a triangle is 48 centimeters squared, and DE is the midsegment of triangle ABC. So I would say, since there's not much, all they did is give us information, let's go ahead and make sense of this information by drawing a diagram. Always something that you should consider on a problem like this. So let's go ahead, we got triangle A, B, and C. And it's saying that DE is a midsegment of this triangle. So we're going to have to go ahead and put right here D to E. Now remember, this is supposed to be a midsegment. Let's say it's a little bit off. All right, so you want to make sure it's directly in the middle, but you understand that this is the midsegment here. So this is, what is the area of triangle ADE? All right, so let's see, what could we do here to make things a little bit easier for us? Well, what I need to know right here are 2 things. I need to know the base and the height. Okay. Now, remember, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So how am I going to figure out what the base and height is? They didn't tell us. In this problem right here, you could figure out, you'd have to find out the base and height by guessing and checking. It could be any two numbers, as long as when you plug it into 1/2 base times height, it equals 48. All right, so that's the key to this problem, is you're going to just have to find out what are some two numbers at work. Um, let's see here. The one that would work out is, let's put 24 and 4. If I take half of 24, that's 12. 12 times 4 is 48. So we could use these two numbers and apply it to our diagram right here to come up with our answer. So you can't just use any two numbers. You've got to actually try to be strategic and guess and check to find what two numbers would work. Are these the only two numbers? No, there are probably several others, but this one does happen to work right here. All right. So now that we have that, if you're saying what else could work, let's see. I think right here, if I take half of 12, that gets me 6. And if I multiply that by 8, that'll get me 48. 6 times 8 is 48. So in this instance, let's go ahead and use these, use this right here. And so since DE is the midsegment of this triangle, we'll go ahead and use the base as 24. How about that? That'll make a little bit more sense, right? So if our base is 24, then now we can find D to E. So let's say that DE right here is equal to 1/2 of the third side. So DE is equal to 12. So there we have that. Okay, so next up, it says, what is the area of triangle ADE? Well, if I look at it like this, my triangle doesn't really make sense, because triangle ADE, that's not a triangle. So let's see, what else could we have done to make this work out? This would actually probably be even better. Let's see if we do this. If we have A, B, C as our triangle, and then how about D and E right here? Ah, that looks a lot better. Looks like I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board here and figure out what we need to do. All of this, it's all good. Let's think about it this way. I have the base and the height, and that makes this a lot easier, especially if I make this into a right triangle. If we say that the base right here happens to be 24, okay, and remember, E is the midsegment, that means it's going to split this up into two parts. So let's go ahead and say this is 12 and 12. Over here, this would be the length of 4, right? We'll say this is the height. And if we split this apart, we'll have 2 and 2 right there. So what is the area of triangle ADE? Well, the triangle ADE, the area is equal to 1/2 the base, which is 12 right there, and then the height, which is 2. So this problem became a little bit more complicated than I had expected. But you may have made that same mistake as well. And you can see that's why it's important to draw things out to make sure things do make sense. If I had gone back and kind of reread this and say, what's the area of triangle ADE, I would have realized, hey, this is not a triangle. So maybe how I drew this triangle doesn't work out. All right, so how does it work? I had to do it a second time right here. And then now, 1/2 of 12 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And so this is 12. And then let's use our unit of measures, centimeters squared. And there's your area. Whew. Had me a little worried there at one point. But you still do need to do some guessing and checking, which is what I did to find the area of 48. If you use different numbers, they should have worked as well. Okay, and you can test it out with the two numbers that I initially tried. All right, let's take a look at number 8, your favorite word problems, everyone's favorite, right? Because it makes you think so much. Number 8, the diagram below shows a triangular wood shed, and then you want to install a shelf halfway up the wood wall. That'll be built between the two walls. So if this right here is halfway, then we have a midpoint, and then so we got 4 and 4. I could gather that from our diagram, and then so this would be wall 1, this would be wall 2. Okay, so that tells me that this is going to be 8.5 and 8.5. All right, so what do they want? How long will the shelf be? That should be easy because they're looking for the mid segment, right? So the mid segment, we can go ahead and say, I'll put mid and say that's going to be equal to 1/2 of, hopefully you got it, 15. And this ends up being 7.5. 7.5 what? Feet, right? Sometimes, though, they do want you to be a little more specific. I think in big ideas in this section, for whatever reason, 7.5 feet was not good enough. You needed 7 feet, and then that 0.5 represents how many inches? 12 inches in a foot, half of that, 7 feet, 6 inches. And that's what they wanted for your answer. For the last part right here, it says how many feet would you measure from the ground along the slant wall to attach the opposite end so that it will be level? Well, once again, how many feet would you measure from the ground along the slant so that it would be level to make it parallel? Well, I already found that for you right here. It's at 8.5. So part B is 8.5 feet. But once again, more specifically, if we were to convert it with feet and inches, we have 8 feet, 6 inches. And there you go, guys. You now know section 6.4.